My name is Caliph Brown, and I'm here to read from Up versus Down, poems, paintings, and serious nonsense, as well as from the contents of Hypnotize a Tiger, poems about just about everything. Now, I originally wanted this endeavor to begin with some sort of clever spin. I would pull the audience in with a grand statement so you'd all be impressed. But this made me very stressed. My brain said take a rest, so instead I'll just offer my best hello. Welcome, everyone, everywhere. Before I start, I'd like to share a little information about me, because I had, as you'll see, a fairly unusual childhood. I wasn't raised in some wild wood, but my family did live in a tree fort. This was in Shreveport, Louisiana. It was a sort of breezy cabana with one of those fantastic lawns, the kind with gnomes and plastic swans. I will admit I was a bit of a weaselly child, easily riled, wildly erratic, full of dramatic tin drum tantrums, the loudest kind. My mom and dad, who didn't seem to mind, were more inclined to write poems and be quiet, so I decided to try it. This stood me in good stead during the years ahead when my least worst ability turned out to be verse facility. On my 16th birthday, my parents disappeared. Now, this was weird, but not unprecedented. A bus they rented was found in a sinkhole, where the mink stole a cufflink and some other stuff, I think. Now, I was never convinced and have since never said that they were dead. Instead, they likely fled to start a band or join the circus. I'm sure they'll resurface. Feeling bored and listless, I went to spend Christmas on the Isthmus of Panama with my fabulous grandma. She's a mentor to me, so clever is she, and meticulous to boot. She wears a particular suit during the spring equinox with a rhinestone ring and sequin socks. The two of us have secret talks during frequent walks in the Panamanian rainforests. We educate the tourists with our knowledge of flora and fauna. It's a sort of nirvana, a Shangri-La, a Xanadu. With toucans, sloths, and bananas, too. Kids, as a rule, are back to school in early September, and I clearly remember the sincere concern for my severe sunburn upon my somber return to Dudley Hall. I did not care for it there, not at all. Throughout the fall, in my dorm room alone, I was prone to melancholy. My life, once very jolly, quickly turned to woe, and as you already know, the days get shorter in short order in the third quarter, when the leaves drop and the sky curdles. All the mud puddles are full of snapping turtles. I tried to hop those hurdles and double back, but my subtle knack for falling head over tea kettle caused me to pause. I let the debris settle, and loudly called for the cavalry. "Assistance!" I cried, my voice hoarse and gravelly. The equestrian rescuers in question never materialized, and with tears in my eyes, I had a harsh realization that my posh education had ill-prepared me. The whole situation scared me, so I cut my hair, dusted the grunge off, and began my quest for a relative to sponge off. I decided to chill with my Uncle William in London town. He was so fun to be around. His numerous pets were his main claim to fame, and except for the shrew, they were all pretty tame. It was totally lame that I had to pay rent, but other than that, I was very content with life in the UK, so I jumped in the fray and decided to stay a while. What can I say? I'm an Anglophile. I worked as a whistleblower for a local thistle grower, keeping weasels and possums from stealing thistle blossoms. On the weekends, I drove the Beetle shuttle. My route was Liverpool to Kidney Puddle. I delivered limes to Leominster and news to Coldcastle, but the whole hassle of paying my dues and the winter blues propelled me back stateside, and with great pride, I moved to Atlanta to raise tiny manta rays and champion scorpions. The latter I train both the body and brain from the time that they're young, and despite being stung on the tongue and the nose, I've won 5 Best in Shows, which is why I suppose I eventually chose to study entomology. Which reminds me, I owe an aunt an apology. It stems from a recent picnic, and I don't mean to nitpick, but ants were rampant. I saw one take a crumpet, but I didn't stamp it. That's not my style. With a friendly smile, I simply separated ant from crumpet. "If you don't like it," I whispered, "you can lump it, you and your unruly friends." Was I being cruel? Well, that depends. If you can relate, I had endured a spate of insect-related incidents. For instance, by coincidence, the following morning, without any warning, and much to my chagrin, I awoke with a beehive on the underside of my chin. What a way for the day to begin! I couldn't nod or play the violin. The pollen on my collar was drying out my skin, and the din. Buzzing and droning every waking hour. They wouldn't let me shave or take a shower. On the brighter side, the bees all decided that I would be included when they sold the honey, and I did need the money. While living in Georgia, I forged my current daily routine. Every morning at 7:15, I walk in Morocco, I stroll in Kowloon, I jog in Chicago, I run in Cancun, I dance in Gdansk, and I swim in Cologne. I breathe the sea air in Sierra Leone, then I go home and write a poem, which sounds, I know, totally insane, but I will hop, skip, and jump on a plane with a little cajoling. I flew to Peru to go bowling and rode a moose to Budapest once. They guessed I was a dunce from the get-go, right off the bat. My get-up was all retro, including the hat. My antics were sadly unappreciated, but luckily for me, a new niche awaited. Despite being supremely ill-suited, I was somehow still recruited to become an astronaut. It went by fast, and mostly I just gasped a lot. First from the incredible view, then from the taste of that inedible goo, tubes full of food pre-chewed. I got in a feud with another astronaut. Then I lost my best pasta pot when the capsule crashed down and splashed around in the Arctic Sea. It was dark and hard to see, but I lassoed a narwhal and floated to Oslo, where it was still cold but less so. Was I relieved? I guess so. Now this is where my story careens, to Astoria, Queens, home of my many phobias and foibles. I'm terrified of marbles, not of losing them, but of the sound they make, rolling on rickety floors. My anxiety soars as they bounce downstairs and collect along baseboards. I hear strange music with ominous bass chords. In whatever direction I face towards, marbles, as far as the eye can see. Between you and me, I have 2 or 3 culinary peculiarities. I donate to vegetarian charities because my meals consist mainly of greenery. I love to chew the scenery and will often eat a cedar tree at tea time, followed by key lime pie. By the by, I'm disgusted by custard, but I've never discussed it. Pudding is sneaky. I don't really trust it. Those are just 2 of the foods I despise. Don't get me started on chili on fries. For that, I've never really cared. These days, I'm very, very scared of becoming one of those orange tan fellows, so I stopped eating carrots, canned Tangelos, or anything pumpkin-hued. Here's my idea of comfort food. Whenever I go to the car wash, I bring a bowl of goulash to keep me warm. I pretend I'm lost at sea in a soapy storm, and things are getting wavy aboard my Royal Navy boat, so I remove the gravy from the Royal Gravy boat and store it safely in a soup tureen equipped with a lid. Then I add scallops wrapped in squid, a favorite recipe of Captain Kidd, who, as the story goes, was eating a big bowl of those while his galleon was sinking. I know what you all are thinking. Enough about food. Who is this dude? Well, as you've probably concluded, I'm wobbly and deluded. My life is convoluted. I can't get the gist of it. I'm a misfit sophisticate, nervous and careful to a fault. I never fold felt or spill salt, and I don't often wear a caftan or a shawl. Very seldom, if at all. I do like a cape or a cloak, but I'm mostly a cardigan bloke. Not too macho. Not much of a honcho. I will in a pinch, though, wear a poncho with a bandolier. I load it with breadsticks to feed the deer. I'm a fly in the kitchen, at home on the range. My behavior is, I admit, rather strange and not likely to ever change or normalize. I refuse to apologize for my silly songs and corny magic tricks. All the rage when I was 6, I often wondered what my future would hold. If I may be so bold, allow me to lay out my retirement plan. It involves a big lottery check and a catamaran. I will sail to a sunny port on a scenic isle. I will build a humble home in a modern style. My days will be full as I slowly grow older, writing and sketching while perched on a boulder at the edge of town. Hunkering down, far from the stores and bazaars and the noise of the cars, I will scribble out my memoirs, all my remembrances, written in verse, fragments of sentences. Oh dear. Well, as much as I would love to proceed, there's no time left for me to read any of the poems in either of my tomes, and the reason, I guess, I should probably address. My mind, I confess, is inclined to digress. It's kind of a mess and takes frequent vacations. Thanks for your patience. My name is Caliph Brown, and my books Up versus Down, Poems, Paintings, and Serious Nonsense, and Hypnotize a Tiger, Poems about just about everything, are published by Christy Ottaviano Books, Henry Holt, and available from your favorite bookseller.